Hi, my name is Daniel, and I'm an author in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In 2019, I published a novel about my struggle with mental illness called Corners Untouched by Madness. If you have mental health issues and want to be heard, here are some tips about what to expect if you want to publish your story. First of all, you need to think of your mental health first. Try to make an inventory of how you might react to other people reading about you. Are you nervous, manic, afraid? When you write, you need to be writing from a healthy place, and you should make sure that you can cope with possible outcomes, whether people love it or hate it. My advice would be to do some DBT therapy sessions to get a better idea of how to manage your illness through the ups and downs of the publishing process. The second thing to consider is how you want to present your work. Is it going to be a work of fiction, loosely based on your life, or a complete word for word memoir? If you're revealing things about yourself and the people around you, telling your story can be like walking through a minefield, kind of. Consider changing elements of the story to protect the privacy of those involved, and don't expect everybody to love it. Be prepared to lose lifelong friends and be willing to open yourself up to new friendships with people who fall in love with what you're saying. The short story is that radical change is going to happen when you open up your life to interpretation from the general public. It takes courage, it takes a certain degree of nerve, and if you have the guts, you might be able to change some people's minds. Find a safe and comfortable place to write, grab your favorite snack or beverage, and get to work. Don't set unrealistic goals for your project. Work at your own pace, but also try to complete the story in the span of 6 months or so to keep everything fresh in your mind. Editing can take years. I edited my book for 6 years after I wrote it, constantly changing details and adding more layers as time went by. Don't add to your stress and anxiety because you're not willing to write fast enough or you're stuck on a chapter. You can take as long as you want. The 6 month time frame that I was talking about is kind of just, a suggestion. Don't get depressed because your project doesn't pull out of the station the way you think it will. If there's trouble along the way, don't get upset. Remember, this is a personal project and a labor of love. It's not always going to be enjoyable to write, but you don't need to endure unnecessary hardship or aggravate your mental illness to achieve extraordinary expectations. Just go at your own pace. Finding a publisher is painful. You're probably going to cry. You're going to get depressed. You will face more rejection than you have ever faced in your entire life. It is not for the thin-skinned or the faint of heart. You may want to consider self-publishing and just skip the entire process. However, if you have the motivation and drive to put yourself out there even more, send your manuscript to some literary agents first to see what happens. I think I sent mine to over 50 agents before I found my publisher. It can be a long process. You may think, okay, I wrote my story and now I want people to start reading it. If you want a traditional publisher and a professional editor to work on it, the process can take over a year. It took over 6 months for me to even get my manuscript read, and I believe that it happened rather quickly compared to some first-time authors. I haven't made it big, but it doesn't mean that you can't. Now, this is the important part that pertains to people that have mental health issues. Releasing a book can be incredibly overwhelming. I was so worried about what people thought or that I might not be able to handle the process that I didn't really promote my book for over a year after it came out. If people are reading your book and it makes you incredibly anxious, rest, lay low, stay in for a few days. You are not on constant display. A version of your story is. I know that to me, that reality can be very intimidating and scary. These are secrets you're sharing, crimes, deviations, mistakes, absolute insanity in some cases. It's scary to open yourself up in ways where you admit to things many would keep from their closest confidants. It is the most frightening thing on the planet. But if there is that intimate connection, it can change people's minds. It is the empathy that changes hearts and has the power to show people who you really are under all these judgments. You can tell your story on your terms. You get the chance to explain yourself. When I met my fiance, I said to her, I have a mental illness, but I also have this story that explains everything. Read it. If you still love me afterward, let's continue. You get to tell others who you are and why you are in your voice. You have the ability to show people the real you. It is a scary and overwhelming thing, but once you are through the shock of having people read your story and not judge you for it, but admire and appreciate you, it can change your life in amazing ways. Finally, make sure to continue to communicate with your psychiatrist or therapist when you are working on your writing project. The sad fact for me was that I did not always have practitioners who believed in me or that I was capable of writing a coherent story. They may think it a dream, a fantasy, and potential for grandiosity and mania. It totally does have potential for that. That's why you should make sure to talk to them on a regular basis to ground you in reality. If they don't believe you can do it, prove them wrong. Mental health professionals are not there to help you write your story. They only want to keep you stable. Most of them are just scared to death that they might be in it and you might say something bad about them. You have the right to do that. This is you sharing your experience with mental illness. This is about validating your reality as authentic, a reality that people can appreciate, enjoy, and learn from. You don't need to write to please your therapist. Be real. Write to please yourself and to present yourself in a way that makes you feel whole and genuine. Tell people what you want them to know. Teach them to feel how you feel and show them how to treat you like a human being. This is your journey. This is your lesson, and your perspective matters. With that, keep writing, keep sharing, keep inspiring. You're loved. I am N. Daniel. Stay tuned to ndaniel.us for more videos.